Any training team has two sides. Basically, those who are trainers, the technical people who are up front, who are dealing with the trainees, the learners at all times. And then there's like backup people who are dealing with the administration issues, registering people coming in, making sure that they have the comfortable accommodation if that's required, or that there are other visas or reimbursements for travel, per diems. There's a variety of things that training administrators are involved in. And of course, the whole shape of this training plan as it emerges and begins to be implemented is around a budget. It's around training budgets. And so it is that a training administrator, the one who's backing up, who's backstopping for the trainers, needs to make sure that the budgets are well planned in the phase before the training begins, realistic, and at the same time that during the training period, whether it's a short period like for a workshop, or whether it's a long period perhaps for a coaching and mentoring process, that we have in place the necessary resources to make sure that the training happens, and to make sure to some extent that the people who are busy training and thinking about the technical issues don't have to stop and be thinking about all the practical and financial issues as well. And so it's very important to divide these functions. When we think about training budgets, of course, the first thing that will come to mind is the training materials. It's very important to have manuals or handouts or some sort of curriculum that is being used as the baseline for the training. And whether that needs to be photocopied in terms of distributing it to a number of learners when implementation takes place, or whether, for example, in a guided reading program, it may simply be that a number of books need to be purchased, just one copy of each for the learner involved, so that the trainer can follow through and make sure that the reading is being internalized and applied in what the person is doing in the workplace. So training materials is very key. And there may be the opportunity also for trainers to prepare those materials, and one has to think about the costs of that. A rule of thumb is that the preparation costs for training materials is roughly 5 times the cost of implementing it the first time. And so you have that 5-to-1 ratio that many training organizations say that it will take 5 days of preparation for every day of training. So one has to think about the budgeting in that sense. The second thing that comes to mind in training budgets is facilitation, the training costs, who's going to pay for the trainers, for the expertise, the people who will be doing that important role, whether it's in a mentoring role that may be occasional, or whether it's more intensive, in let's say a seminar where for X number of days, it might be 5 days or 10 days that the trainers will be brought in as presenters, as speakers, and have to do the training facilitation. One can often get a quotation from a training institute, and what they may do is say that we will present a course in our roster for so much per learner. Many courses in South Africa for NGOs, if you approach a private institute for the training of your personnel, are running at this stage around 9,000 Rand per learner for a 1-year program. Now that means that they have broken down the costs of training materials and the costs of facilitation onto a per learner basis. Of course, this is going to vary with budgets because we understand that economies of scale will make things more efficient. When you can have 20 people in a program instead of 5, it's going to be probably cheaper in terms of each learner. On top of those costs, one also has to think about the logistics costs and about the travel. A lot of learning may take place in field trips and travel that's involved in the learning process, but also one has the getting to training and getting home from training. That may be to a training center for a 5-day period, and then you get people home, or it may be on a daily basis, getting people bus fare to make sure they get to their English lessons after work, and then back home and so forth. So one also has to think about the accommodation, the meals. One has to think about the per diems, if indeed they're available. Many NGOs don't feel that it's necessary to pay per diems because they feel that people are already earning a salary. But that's controversial, because in government you do have a policy normal for per diems to be paid to the trainees. So all of these issues of budgets need to be well planned. Budgets are an expression in financial figures of planning. In fact, what we're talking about when we say budgets is planning, and it's very important for any kind of training for it to be well planned and then translated into financial figures so that we know how it's going to run.